Hello everyone, welcome to a WWE pay-per-view review from the CC Network. I'm Fred, your ever-reliable host as always, and today we'll be reviewing Wrestlemania 33, held last night in the Citrus Bowl in Orlando, Florida. It's the showcase of the Immortals and the ultimate thrill ride. Now, please note, as you may know, that 7 hours for a wrestling show is a long time. Made even worse if you're a UK viewer like myself, where inevitably staying up from 10 PM till 5:30 AM is pretty bad. It makes it even worse when you suffer from a toothache midway through the show and you then have to realise, crap, I'm sitting through 3 or 4 hours of matches while I'm in unbearable pain. Thankfully, I'll be having this wisdom tooth removed tomorrow and all should be fun. Hopefully. Now, we had a roller coaster of an evening with some good weather and a New Day hosting. What could have gone wrong? The match card looked good on paper, but whether it could get past WrestleMania 32's rating of 6 out of 10 that I gave last year, which some people find unjust, is still up in the air. Then again, we'll have to see how it fared, won't we? And on the predictions front, I actually got more right than wrong this time, with only 2 wrong on the main card, with one of them coming completely out of the blue against the grain. Nonetheless, we had 3 matches on the pre-show to kick things off, which are not reviewed if you don't know how my reviews work, which saw Neville defeat Austin Aries to retain the Cruiserweight Championship, Mojo Rawley winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, eliminating Jinder Mahal last. I still don't understand why they've done that, and surprisingly, Dean Ambrose beat Baron Corbin to retain the Intercontinental Championship. I didn't see that coming, either on the pre-show or that result. In fact, on the pre-show, I got no predictions correct at all. Crazy. And finally, of course, Green Light by Pitbull, Flo Rida and Lunch Money Lewis was the theme song, which I enjoy as a song, but performed live with auto-tune and singing over the recorded track, it was so lazy and it was horrible. Hopefully this would be the worst thing we'd see on this show, but we're about to find that out going into an in-depth analytical review. Let's get this thing started. We kick things off, surprisingly, with AJ Styles defeating Shane McMahon in 20 minutes and 31 seconds off of a phenomenal forearm. Now, didn't many of you say that this match was gonna suck? That it's demeaning of a man of AJ Styles' quality to go in there and wrestle a non-wrestler? Well, I bet a lot of you were eating your words after you saw this, because if you're in the same mindset as I am, you were quite surprised at how unbelievably athletic this contest was. And to have it as the opening bout was a little confusing and a bit bemusing, I will admit, but seeing Shane and AJ go through so many possible styles, trying to outdo one another, and showcase that they are actually worthy of their place, was really nice, and it built to a really tense and exciting finish that was really worth seeing. Overall, we had technical wrestling with submission holds, we had a fist fight, we had hardcore spots, high-flying moves, a great amount of amateur wrestling to begin with, and a lot of counter-holding and reversals, and it was incredible. Seriously, both men showed incredible toughness, resilience, and insane skill, and to think that one of these guys isn't actually a trained competitor is frankly ridiculous, and the crowd in attendance was stunned by it, because they were not expecting it. And okay, Shane didn't jump off anything, but it was a good idea to showcase that he isn't just a spot monkey. He actually can go, and some people seem to have forgotten that over the years, and it's good to see that Shane was able to showcase that, while AJ Styles was able to prove, you know what, I am the best in the damn world, and you did a damn good job trying to fight with me. It was really good, and overall, trying to mark this match down is a little criminal, because it was a fantastic way to kick off the show. But overall, I felt the pacing towards the end was a little too fast, and inevitably that meant not enough body selling from either man, considering the punishment these guys are putting themselves through. And while Shane's moves and the one-armed Styles clash was lovely, overall I felt that AJ needed to put a bit more in the move variety column just to sprinkle this up a little bit, because if it did, we'd be looking at a 4.5-star match. But because of that, I'm going to have to be very, very picky and give it a 4.25-star rating. Honestly, this was the show stealer that many doubted it would be, and I'm happy to say that it was the second most surprising thing that happened all night, because even I wasn't expecting it to reach this level. And overall, it was a pretty damn good start to Mania, wasn't it? And it's without a doubt the best match that Shane's put on for quite some time. Considering that, it's probably his best match overall since the hardcore match against Kurt Angle at King of the Ring 2001. You may say otherwise, but I think I've made a good shout for that one. And honestly, AJ Styles, Another feather in his ever-growing cap. How that thing doesn't fly away as a bird on its own right, I have no idea. But dude, brilliant match to kick off the show. Let's hope it keeps on climbing from here. Next up, we have the United States Championship match as Kevin Owens won the title, beating Chris Jericho off a powerbomb to the apron in 16 minutes and 51 seconds. Now, to say I'm disappointed by this contest was an understatement. I love both of these wrestlers, but I was surprised at just how lackluster this match was. But when you consider Jericho's run of matches since his AJ Styles match at Mania last year, I shouldn't be shocked that I've come to this conclusion, really, because no matter what they tried to do in showcasing their knowledge of each other's movesets, the reverberation, the counters, and the intensity that came out of the match occasionally, this was lacking a certain zing, and considering it had to follow Shane and AJ, I can blame that partially on bad card placement. It should have happened a little later on in the evening as far as I'm concerned, but Jericho did look good in losing, which should be a good thing in case this might be his last big major match. Honestly. However, the match overall was slow, it was laborious, it rarely picked up, and if not for a Jericho hot crowd and some interesting bits of psychology, this could have been a brilliant match and a much better showcase than what we got. Momentum shifted way too much and actually stayed in Jericho's corner for a bit too much as well, in my opinion. And in all honesty, I expected these two to just tear each other apart. They're rivals, they hate each other, punch each other to oblivion, and beat each other up, basically, instead of showcasing a methodical contest of technical skill. Because sometimes a feud just needs to end on a bang, doesn't it? And I'm annoyed that we were deprived of that. But in spite of my criticism, it was an enjoyable at times match that wasn't an all-out failure. It did enough overall to be enjoyable for the most part and did its job by putting Kevin Owens over in the best way possible. It got 1 3/4 stars, but considering how good these two are, I was expecting a lot more from it. The build was sublime, but yet the payoff didn't really feel as good as it should be, and it makes me question whether I'd want to see a rematch. Because unless they add a stipulation or some kind of match type to it, I may not be that interested overall. And honestly, that's a bit sad. But then again, we did get a giant list of Jericho and a light-up scarf, so I guess that's something. These two can wrestle, but I feel they were constrained by some weird booking to stop this match from really achieving its potential, in spite of what it did anyway. Now it's time for the Raw Women's Championship Elimination Match, the Fatal 4-Way one to be exact, where Bayley defeated all the competition, last eliminating Charlotte to retain the title off a top rope elbow in 12 minutes and 14 seconds. Now, considering how much hype this match got in to the show, I've got to say, I wasn't expecting it to go so quick, I wasn't expecting it to last so little time, and I wasn't expecting it to be third on the damn card. But I bet you're questioning me right now. Fred, how can a match that went 12 minutes be considered quick? Well, the pace, for a start, was relentless. Seriously, it didn't slow down much at all, right up until its final moments, which really annoyed me. And honestly, the eliminations felt really rushed, not really giving too much time for these women to showcase themselves. And it doesn't really paint the best of pictures overall, but aside from the pacing being flawed, this match was enjoyable as Nia Jax was showcased to be a dominant monster. And having 3 women eliminate her was even better, as they showcased a great variety of creative moves, even after she was gone, to bring this match to life and make it feel like a really good athletic contest, making the pace feel somewhat justified. However, even when I say that, as the match went on, it became apparent of what the result was going to be, making it lose its luster a bit. Not before putting in a small bit of psychology-rich elements with the knee to make it feel like it was a contest worth winning, as the crowd retained their interest for most of the contest, but not in a massive way. Bayley winning off what I felt was a really nice exclamation point with that elbow was a welcome change, as I'm hoping she does this more in the future, because the belly-to-belly does suck. And that's coming from a guy who loves belly-to-belly suplexes. Just saying. Nonetheless, this match lived up to some of its potential and showcased Raw's women as incredibly athletic performers who know how to work, and it made Bayley and Nia Jax look good. I say the job's done, right? It may have faltered in some places and it wasn't as good as last year's Triple Threat, but then again, not much is going to be. I mean, overall, they could have extended this match by another 10 minutes, they could have made the confrontations between the wrestlers feel more real and intense and enjoyable, and we could have seen some great near falls and great switching sequences of finishes and stuff like that. We saw a little bit, but it felt a little too rushed for my tastes, and it inevitably means at the end of the day, it doesn't achieve the rating I would have wanted it to, aka 2.5 stars, because every match, I believe, should try for that. However, it does get a 2.25 star rating. The pace was the main fault here, but when you look at everything else, this is a pretty solid contest, and it was quite enjoyable even with its problems. So yeah, not bad for a match that could have descended into chaos without too much interest. They tried to give us something to wow us over, and for the most part, I felt the Raw women held up their end of the bargain. Let's hope the SmackDown women can do the same later on. Next, we have the Raw Tag Team Championship ladder match, which came with a little bit of a surprise, as the Hardy Boys came back. Not only did they come back, they won the whole damn thing, defeating Gallows and Anderson, Enzo and Cass, and Sheamus and Cesaro after 11 minutes and 6 seconds of an absolute car crash to become the new tag team champions. And I'm going to say this right now, I didn't see this coming at all. My friend, however, upon being told of the Hardy contract stuff with Ring of Honor and Impact, was thinking, you know what, they're going to come back. And he's a massive Hardy mark, so I could sense he was going to say, look, it's a ladder match, the Hardys are going to come back, and it's going to be awesome. I didn't think about that. I shrugged it off, saying they're going to appear on Raw tonight, this evening, because it makes more sense. And boy was I proven wrong. It threw my prediction out the window too. The crowd lost it. And after the 2 prior matches that kind of were okay in terms of crowd reception, they really perked up in this thing. And seriously, it made the match feel like a nice spectacle, making an okay ladder match feel about 1,000,000 times better than it had the right to be. Sure, the story was non-existent outside of Gallows and Anderson showing their dominance and the Hardys showing their expertise in the ladder match type, but everything else was pretty much on the money. The match was fast and furious and given just enough time to feel like it was worth its weight. The amount of moves showcased were a small one, but a good enough quality, especially that lifting move into the uppercut. Jesus Christ. And of course, it never gets old seeing the Hardys do massive spots off the top of ladders. And seeing as we hadn't seen those in the WWE ring for so long, they counted towards the move variety, because you don't see a lot of those types of spots nowadays, I will say. Even though WWE have done a good few, like the Samurai del Sol that Kalisto did a few years ago. Overall, though, I look at this contest and just feel that this would be decent. But to the shock of the century return and a great moment and just a great flurry of excitement and intensity made this match feel like a really nice contest. And considering that the team who won were the Ring of Honor Tag Champs 48 hours prior, made this achieve somewhat mythical status overall. Overall for me, it achieved a stark yet unbelievable rating of 2 3/4 stars. The Hardys made this match. They made the crowd go crazy, they added spots that made the move variety go up, they highlighted the pace of the contest overall, and everything worked in making this match feel like it was worth it. Sure, I'm annoyed Enzo and Cass didn't win, but at the same time, you couldn't have picked another team that I could have picked to win it, and yeah, I'll give the Hardys credit, because without them, this match could have easily stunk up the joint, and I'm happy that WWE made the creative decision that they did, because if they didn't, we'd be looking at a pretty bland match, I would be saying. Next, we have a SmackDown match. God, how long has it been since I've said that? With a mixed tag team match, as John Cena and Nikki Bella did what they said they'd do in crushing Miz and Maurice following a tandem AAN rack attack in 9 minutes and 40 seconds. And after the bout concluded, Cena proposed, with Nikki saying, yes, I know it was cringy, I know it was really poorly acted, but it was still lovely. You know what? Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Cena. I hope you enjoy your lives together. I won't be watching your wedding, though. Just saying. If it's on television, I will not give it a watch. Now, onto the match itself. The build for this bout was so good. So good. Last week's promo, best moment on screen this year. Hands frickin' down. And it heightened my expectations for a match that I really should not have thought was anything other than a cut and dry, predictable contest. Because I did. And then I realised, holy crap, this is Miz versus Cena. How? Of course it's going to be predictable as hell, isn't it? And inevitably I felt gutted that I didn't realise this. However, I enjoyed The Miz using the hot anti-Cena crowd to his advantage to try and make this match feel big and create that Colosseum-like atmosphere, but outside of his usual Daniel Bryan shtick and the hot tag that resulted in the double team finish, this match felt a little lifeless, in spite of the attempts by the Awesome One to kick it into a higher gear. But the fact is they couldn't because the match was too mediated and steady in pacing for it to really do that. And not to mention it was one-sided with momentum not really shifting at all. Really didn't make it feel good. And considering this is about as one-sided as a Cena match can get, considering we haven't really seen that for a number of years from him, I should not have expected too much from this match, and I did. Then again, I enjoyed Al Roker's ring announcing way more than I honestly thought I would. The Ken Shamrock Gregory Peck comparison by JBL was the damn call of the night. God damn. And the proposal itself was a nice, saccharine moment to finish it off on. The Miz was shown at his egotistical best, and Nikki and John got their big moment in spite of it. And much like the women's match earlier on, job was done, I guess. But however, according to my scale, this match was nothing special, and it fares a lot worse. It's a 1.25 star match, but nothing more. It did what it said on the tin. But this is what happens when the build is so good to a match that you completely forget what you're actually watching. And that was an advert for Total Bellas. Now, I still won't watch your Total Bella TV show because, I'm not interested. So WWE, your marketing ploy to a person like me, has failed. Good thing that the build-up to this match was amazing, otherwise I'd really have some issues with this. Oh well. Let's move on to a match I'm more interested in talking about. And that was the non-sanctioned match, seeing Seth Rollins defeat Triple H following a pedigree, and I can't believe I'm saying this, a Stephanie McMahon table bump in 25 minutes and 24 seconds. Now, many will say that this match was too slow, had very little crowd interest, and was a massive letdown. Now, while you are right about the crowd, who really weren't into this at all, I have to say, this match was a blast for me to watch. You can see from the ratings on the screen now why. The psychology. Oh my god. I'm a stickler for storytelling and body psychology, and if they are weaved together well, it makes me so freaking happy. And I was even more happy considering Rollins' leg was played for every move. Pretty much for the entire contest. Triple H worked that leg from bell to bell, and it was awesome. And Rollins sold it so well too, and this was a psychology lover's wet dream to watch that. And having Stephanie interfere and then accidentally go through a frickin' table was worth the price of admission as well. Sure, it wasn't the comeuppance like receiving a bloody curb stomp, which, again, I've already mentioned before how I don't like the idea of the domestic violence guideline resulting in men not being able to attack the women because it's fair game as far as I'm concerned, but at the same time, at least it was a great moment, right? Overall, the match started out fast due to the hatred and aggression, but slowed into a methodical and systematic beatdown that had enough weapon usage to showcase that it's passable on the non-sanctioned front, right? And overall, these two guys showcased their knowledge of each other through some great countering and false finishing sequences, and overall, it just created a great match. A great match that I thoroughly enjoyed, that was let down by a lackluster crowd and nothing new on the move front outside of that table bump, because seriously, Stephanie McMahon going through a table, I'm never going to stop thinking about that. That was awesome. Overall, this match was as brutal as it needed to be to tell the story of Seth Rollins overcoming and defeating the Tyrant, which was built superbly. As the longer it went on, I really had no idea who was going to win, and it was superb. The match, this match, was immense fun. And I loved it, despite its pace and the crowd. And it used its story to wrap me into it, and it made me feel happy that after the stop-start build we got, that this match was worth the wait. It was, for me, the match of the night. And it was very reminiscent of Triple H versus Kurt Angle at the 2001 Royal Rumble. Because that was a technical contest that no one gave a crap about, but was really, really good. And inevitably, I feel it's a really good showcasing of Triple H when he knows how to work the story. Sure, some of you will think that he didn't do anything to get the crowd back on their side, but that wasn't the reason for the match happening. That was not what we were looking at here. We were looking at these two going to war and using each other's knowledge to wear each other down. And it was great. It was brilliant, in fact. And for me, as I've already reiterated, it was match of the damn night. It was 4.5 stars, even without Samoa Joe interfering, which is still something I can't believe didn't happen. Overall, this was the match that the rivalry between these two needed, and I had a great time watching it unfold. Many of you may not agree, but for a person like me, who loves body psychology and telling a story in a match, something that sometimes in WWE matches you don't get a lot nowadays, I felt that this was just a wonderful spectacle. And honestly, I couldn't have asked for more, really. Next we have the WWE Championship match. So much for the Rumble win getting the main event, guys. Yeesh. Randy Orton, though, made the most of his opportunity by defeating Bray Wyatt in 9 minutes and 57 seconds to win the championship, and I believe his first world title since 2014. Good God, this is fantastic, really, when you think about it. Anyway, not having this in the main event, I can understand considering what we got later on. I can fully understand that, and I'm very happy. However, I have to question why Orton won this thing. Wyatt having only a 1-month reign? I am not happy with that. But when you look at the story, considering Orton had a vengeance plan set out, and it made sense for him to win. I can understand why it happened, but that still doesn't mean I like it. And I thought to myself, well, you could have waited. But then the next SmackDown pay-per-view is in late May and it's early April. You have a lot to build for that, and it doesn't feel like it's going to be done. But then again, it gives a lot of time for the Eater of Worlds to get his title back, right? And build up a really nice revenge plan of his own. Hopefully. Now, the match itself up until that point was an interesting and ethereal combination of momentum shifting and fast-paced action, accented by some creepy shots of the ring being filled with bugs. It was a bit weird, and it was a little cheesy, but who cares? It was a theatrical match that showcased Wyatt's character, but lacked on the in-ring from being way too quick and focusing too much on finishes to have too much substance. However, having both men attempt and fail to hit their finishes so much showcased desperation, a desire to win regardless of the risk they're taking, and considering what these two had been through together, that actually felt like a good way to showcase the story of the match, and it helped the match go up in my eyes while having the crowd reacting well enough until the finish, of course. If not for its length, this could have been an average 2.5-star match, but we're going to have to settle again this evening for a 2.25-star rating instead. It felt obvious that these two aren't done yet, though, and they were honestly, in my opinion, holding back for a match that will main event Backlash that is well worth the wait, and it'll be much more than what this one had. Then again, this was better than their No Mercy bout. And I can be at least pleased that they surpassed an inferior match on the big stage, so I'll give Wyatt and Orton some plaudits, but considering what we got from the build and how it built so well, I expected more, but hey, 2.25 ain't bad for what we got on the night though. Next up we have the Universal Championship match, where Brock Lesnar finally avenged his 2 prior losses by defeating Goldberg in 4 minutes and 46 seconds off an F5 to become the first person ever holding both the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship in their careers. Mad, right? Now, considering the atrocious 13-year-old bout and the minuscule squash we had to compare this match to, anything these two could have done more than those could have easily won over those 2 prior bouts. However, to see this match go the way it did, I don't think anyone saw this coming. We all thought it was either going to be a quick squash or a long, drawn-out mess. The good thing is we got a middle point between that was the most aggressive and intense thing I've seen in so many years, all happen in under 5 minutes. I don't think any of us really knew that this was going to happen, and it convinced me even more that this was utterly brilliant. Overall, these 2 behemoths countered and kicked out of everything they threw at them. And seriously, Brock Lesnar, that leapfrog, dear God, you inhuman monster. I haven't seen you do that since the mid-2000s, and that scared the living crap out of me. You are a freak of nature, my man, seriously. And Goldberg, spearing a man through a barricade at your age? Bloody hell. God, anyway, spots like that and the frantic pace of it all showcased that, well, these two still had it in them to make the crowd go nuts. Goldberg was booed prior to this bell ringing, and they went back and cheered for him instantly because they realised these guys are putting all their eggs into the basket and unloading 110% to make this blow-off feel like it meant something. And it was a taste of what could have been a classic some 13 years ago, but it was enthralling, it was exciting, and it turned what could have been an absolute stinker into an absolute barnstormer that really was quite a shock. And overall, I feel this match was very reminiscent of the Big Show Brock Lesnar match from Survivor Series 2002 in its execution, where both wrestlers were not harmed by what they did. They filled as much story into what little time they had in what they did move-wise, and it kept the crowd on edge for its entirety. And while one of these guys did get their shoulders pinned to the mat, it was exciting, it was interesting, and it was really fun for what we got. And the thing is, I know some of you may think, oh, the rating I'm about to give is very frivolous, but when you consider what this match could have been and what we actually got, are you quite surprised I'm giving it 2.25 stars? Seriously, the match length was perfect, really. Ish. And the fact is, if it was longer, it would have increased other aspects to make this match go even higher in the rating scale. But for what we got here, in this match, I've got to say, a 2.25 star rating is quite superb. When was the last time a match that went under 5 minutes got that? It's crazy. But Brock and Goldberg actually delivered. Who the hell thought that was going to happen when this pay-per-view started? Next up, we have the Women's Championship from SmackDown being defended in a 6-pack challenge, with Naomi getting the win off a submission. I do not know what the hell it is, but it looked unbelievably awesome. God damn, I loved that. To win the belt back in 5 minutes and 53 seconds to the adoration of her hometown crowd, which is obviously sprinkled with a little bit of international flavour. Then again, they all loved it nonetheless. This was moved off the pre-show to ensure that Naomi got that WrestleMania moment she deserved for working her ass off over these years, which was lovely. The match, though, felt very similar to the multi-women's match at WrestleMania 30 for being way too fast for what it was and not having a lot of substance, and it even had the double sharpshooter that Natalya gave right down there. All the women here were given space, though, to showcase their rivalries, hit some gnarly strikes, and put on a couple of decent moves in there. And all the while making Naomi look fearless as she took risks and got the title that she never lost back. All's well, right? Ellsworth also got Bexploded. So yeah. It offered and did little, but it was enjoyable enough to get a 1-star rating from me. There isn't really that much to say here. This is a standard match with a very standard and bland rating, so it's befitting of it, and the fact is it got on the card, but was it really worth bumping the Intercontinental title off for? I don't know. All in all, though, if someone could tell me what that submission move that Naomi used was, I'd appreciate it, because that thing was incredible. Now, though, we have to go on to the main event, and that is an interesting match, to say the least. And that was Roman Reigns defeating The Undertaker in a no-holds-barred match made on the night, I might add, in that regard to the match type, following a massive run-up spear in 24 minutes and 58 seconds, with Taker being left alone for the conclusion of the show. He took his hat and coat and gloves off, he left them in the ring, kissed his wife Michelle at ringside, lapped up the adoration of the fans, did one last salute, and departed the way he came, in a cloud of smoke, as the bell rang out, with the lights going out, one last time. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We have witnessed The Undertaker's last dance, and just like an old pro should, he went out on his back. He got the send-off that was understated, yet fitting for a man who gave us so much, but yet through kayfabe and character, he didn't want much else in return. And while some may hate this result because it was Roman Reigns who got the rub, there was no one else on WWE's roster who was intense and athletic enough, at least in a big man capacity, to get a good final match out of a beaten and broken down Taker while making it entertaining at the same time. Some people will say it may have lacked a lot of substance. It felt flat. And honestly, a lot of you may also complain that this match was just not good out and out, just like the Taker-Lesnar match was at WrestleMania 30. But just like that match, I have to tell you all this. The match was made a million times better because of context, because of what was done to make this match have its writing put on the damn wall. I said back at WrestleMania 30 that when I watched it back after seeing it live in person, that seeing how they'd coded this match through commentary, Taker's movements, and the story that the match was building to, the whole thing made sense. And the same thing happened here. You could see through Taker's movements that he was faltering, that he was trying his hardest to put Reigns down, but Reigns was just too young, too fast, and in too peak physical condition to have Undertaker be able to put him down. And the same thing was in the case for Lesnar as well. The same thing applies here. And overall, sure, the crowd were in and out, and they were waiting for the inevitable, and its opening and closing moments were great to witness, and while the match was sluggish at times, I've got to say there was enough pace and violence to justify its length and placement on the card given context. By the end of the match, I was drained and relieved having seen Taker's last fight, and knowing Roman had done it justice while still making Taker look like a badass. It was a story of cockiness and youth against one of experience and patience that benefited a lot from that no-holds-barred stipulation, because even though it was added at the last minute, without it, I swear to God, this would have been a lackluster bout, and it was very interesting. Not entertaining on that regard. I found it intriguing and tense. Inevitably, considering it's an Undertaker match, that's exactly how I should bloody feel at WrestleMania, shouldn't I? Despite the streak not being there. And while a streak would have added to this, for what we got here, it still worked as far as I'm concerned. That's all I'm going to say. And all in all, I appreciated the subtlety and the quality this match gave, and not a lot of you will see that. Some of you may think I'm talking out of my arse, but when you think about the connection between the original streak-defeating match, for me it makes sense. For me it has purpose. For me it makes the match feel like it has more weight. And that's just how it is. And inevitably, at the end of the day, I give this match, in spite of its faults, being a fitting end to Taker's career, going out on a good high with a 3.25 star performance. And honestly, when you look at my ratings going back to WrestleMania 28, going from WrestleMania 29 onwards, every match from 2013 to 2017 on the WrestleMania card has been in the 3-star category, all roundabouts. And that is incredibly consistent for a guy who is in old age and could barely walk or barely move without being in pain. This is a great way to end Taker's career because it proves the guy knew how to go. And Taker, there will be never another character, another man in this business like you. And I just want to thank you for all you've given to this industry and for myself. You are my second favourite wrestler of all time, and during the Ruthless Aggression era, you made me very interested in watching you beat the living shit out of people. It was so fun, and we're never going to see the likes of you again, and I tip my invisible hat to you, man. Seriously. And the thing is, I will be there in New Orleans next year, and I'm hoping to God in the City of the Dead you are inducted into WWE's Hall of Fame. It'll be richly deserved, and honestly, even though the match may not have been up to some people's standards, for me, it was just right for Taker to go out in a really good contest that showcased, even in defeat, that Taker was the consummate professional. And after all that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to give my final thoughts on the 33rd WrestleMania. Now, I have to admit, going into this show, I was feeling quite nervous about it, because I was excited that these matches on paper could deliver, but I was worried that it would fall foul of what WrestleMania 32 did. Now, you look at my rating for WrestleMania 32, and you think a 6 out of 10 is pretty good. Well, think about it this way. That pay-per-view had a first half of its card that had some great 3-star matches that went on for quite a while and were great before the night tanked and went into quite bad territory. However, those matches, while they were great on my rating scale, had results that made no sense. And at the end of the night, I was feeling irritated that WWE could put on such great athletic contests, yet have them mean so little. And that was the thing that irritated me the most through that night. So the 6 out of 10 that I gave was because of its quality of in-ring work and the entertainment that that gave me. While the booking and some of the other matches that were booked horribly and deservedly did rubbishly as a result, got chastised for it. So the 6 out of 10 loses its luster when you think about it that way. So I was worried that WrestleMania 33 would suffer the same fate, where the matches would be decent and really good technically, but the booking would make no sense as WWE tries to please a crowd that they really shouldn't be pleasing around this time of year. Yes, the casual fans. Seriously, WrestleMania needs to be for everybody, just not one set of fans, Vince. Get a hint. Nonetheless, when I look at WrestleMania 33 in comparison with its brethren last year, this pay-per-view put on a much bigger spectacle, even though the matches didn't quite achieve the heights that some of last year's managed to reach. And that's not a bad thing to say, because we got 2 4-star plus barnstormers and a 3-star curtain call for a legendary career. That's all well and good, but this card could have floundered if it wasn't held up by some great 2-star average matches that made this card feel consistent, and it made the night have a lot of enjoyment and entertainment to it, because everything felt like it worked. I wasn't disappointed by who won for pretty much every single contest. And at the end of it all, I felt that there was enough thrills and spills and unpredictability and decent match quality to where I was enjoying myself. Sure, the runtime and length meant I was drained by the end of it, but at the same time, I felt it was an enjoyable and entertaining time to watch. And they said it was the ultimate thrill ride, and boy, I felt every emotion under the sun watching this. Compare that to last year, where it was just happiness of decent wrestling and then an irritation that the main event went down the toilet. Overall, though, this show did disappoint at times, but not in the way I was expecting. And inevitably, the disappointments were minor, because when I look at this card, it was a much better WrestleMania than it had any right to be, despite how good the matches were. A lot of them exceeded our expectations, some fit right into their place, and some just were there, but they did what they needed to do. And that's fine. As long as none of them stunk up the joint, I think we were perfectly understandable and fine with it. Overall, though, this was the ultimate thrill ride WWE promised. It was a massive spectacle, it kept you on your toes, it entertained for pretty much its entirety, and it had enough good matches to where I actually felt, you know what? WWE have done it again. They've made WrestleMania feel like a big-time thing. I just wish they didn't do it for only the big 4 pay-per-views, because if Payback at the end of this month gets a 4 out of 10 again, I'm going to be annoyed, really. But at the end of the day, this WrestleMania makes me look forward to tonight's Raw, tomorrow's SmackDown, and the future, and think they've laid down a stable foundation for some things to move on and create some interesting television. Let's hope it does, because this event did its job pretty well. It's not one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. It's a pretty good one, though. And overall, I couldn't really ask for more at the end of the day. And I'm going to say this. It's a good thing to see, because I'm looking forward to next year, because I'm going to be in New Orleans. I'm hoping for a similar event in terms of quality. And I'm hoping it'll be just that. Ladies and gentlemen, WrestleMania 33 gets a really nice score of 7 out of 10. Now, it may not have been perfect by any means, but for a WrestleMania event, I got all I could out of it and enjoyed myself. It's one of the better Manias, of course, excluding a notable few. But at the end of the day, the sun is shining as Raw and SmackDown await us. Bring on the new wrestlers, the new storylines, the new opportunities. Because the rest of this year could be interesting, and this WrestleMania is a nice bright spot. And while it isn't as good as the Royal Rumble, because seriously, you're going to have to do a lot to beat Styles versus Cena in that regard, overall, this show did a great job. And as one sun sets, another rises. So everyone, I know a lot of you are raw, you're irritated by a lot of things in pro wrestling, but in this time of post-Undertaker, let's just think about the positives. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The WrestleMania 33 review is done, and I hope you've enjoyed this show, just as much as I hope you enjoyed the event last night. But all in all, what did you all think? Do you think it was a good WrestleMania, one for the greats, or do you think it's one of the worst WrestleManias of all time because Roman Reigns won in the main event again? I know he was in the main event for the last couple, and he's everyone's most hated figure, but I know some of you are just going to really not like this show because of one result. Get your heads out of your asses, people, and be more realistic. It'll help. Nonetheless, what did you all think? Put your comments down there in the comments section. I'd be glad to hear them. And if you want to keep up to date with what's happening with the CC Network, not only can you click subscribe and get the videos right then and there when they're posted, but to know when they all are, go to the Twitter account at CC Network YT to see the schedule for when those videos are going up. We've got a big month here with the fully loaded 2000 review for the Friday Flashback series, the Fur Fighters playthrough is continuing, and we have a brand new review show called Pones and Stuff. All is good. And the next pay-per-view that we have here will be Payback, which will be reviewed on May the 1st. I look forward to that show because Raw has a good 4 weeks to give us something fun. Hopefully tonight we're going to see something great. I have been Freddie Thomas, you've been people listening. This has been the WrestleMania 33 review and results for the CC Network, and I will see you all next time.